Started to rain out here after being beautiful all day. This is the window I meant to go to, but I haven't actually transitioned it here yet. All right, there we go. Hey, Voidoth. Thanks for coming by. I don't know that I'm recognizing your name, but thanks so much for coming by. So this stream's going to be maybe a little different. I'm not sure if I'm going to play any Netrunner, so it's definitely something I'm open to doing, but I want to think about some things a little bit, and talk about some thoughts I'm having in my brain before I go too much. But part of what I want to talk about is the circuit opener. I ran a circuit opener this Saturday. Had a great time. You can see the poster for it right there. I didn't fill in any details. I didn't put up the poster. But it was a great time. We had 17 people show up, and I was top of Swiss by, what is this? 0.4. Oh, you actually can't see. Hold on, let me make this my, no. Okay, all my cameras are too big. Let's move my camera out of the way for now. You can see I just barely snuck it out on strength of schedule to be first in Swiss, and then didn't manage to convert it in the cut. This makes Holly, this is the second CO. Hey Orbs, yeah, so actually this record down below here, this is the win-loss tie for each side. So I went 4-0 with Op, but then lost with it in the cut, and then 3-1 with Essa. Didn't play in the cut at all because I did a top 3 cut, so it was just 2 versus 3 and 1 versus 2, and we coin flipped for side selection in both sides because I felt like letting second seed decide their matchups for both was a little bit weird, and letting first seed only have to win 1 game and get side selection felt too strong. So that's definitely something to think about and discuss. But yeah, so this was the whole event. We had 17 people show up, which was super cool. So this was single elim best of 3, yeah. And so like I wanted to try this out and see, in part so I could put it in the recommendations for organized play. It was super. So basically the way the event worked. Ooh, oh my goodness, my stream thing's getting away from me. Was we ran the event. The event started at 11, and then we were done by. We were done with Swiss with an hour-long lunch break by about 5:45, just somewhere between 5:45 and 6, which is the same amount of time that 4 rounds of double-sided Swiss would take, which I was not expecting. We got a little bit lucky where we had 2 rounds that ended between 5 and 10 minutes early, which is great. But if you told me that if you told me that the event was going to be an extra half hour to do the same 8 games that you would do in 4, I would say, yeah, no, I wouldn't even think about it. I think it's not that big of an ad. And then we did the cut in 45 minutes because 2 games of Netrunner is super fast, honestly. Like, yes, it can take 65 if both players are taking it super seriously. It's so and the first game actually did take a bit because it was an Essa really fighting uphill and almost beating a PE. And then the second game, the final, I just got slaughtered. And I'll talk a little about how. And I'll talk about the corp list. Let me try to. I feel like I'm like at the bottom of my thing. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. It ended up being a weird thing where going into round 7, Holly and I were both at 18 points, but we had both played runner in round 7. So both Holly and I were the top 2, like had only lost 1 game the whole event so far. But because we had both gone runner +1, we didn't get paired up against each other in round 8, and so we actually had to play out our games, which I thought was kind of cool. It's like if I had lost to Hank and I would have been tied at 18 points and been a very clean cut. So if either Holly or I loses a thing in round 8, there's not even a tiebreakers. If both of us lose, then it becomes like a real mess where 4 people end up at 18 points, which I think was kind of cool. But Coldlop, hit me with that buy question, because I don't think I have a ton more to say. Because we had an odd number of players, every single round someone got a buy. So you'll see there's 8 people that have Corp +1 or Runner +1, and those are the players that got a buy. You could also count it out, instead of having 8 games played, they only have 7 games played. But yeah, we had a really good turnout. A bunch of people showed up for their first time, and then I had so yeah, this I put it in my deck list write up, and I honestly I thought about, and maybe I still should make a little video about my corp deck. Though now that video should maybe change and be about my corp deck and Eric's more successful runner deck. That were both like meta calls, but maybe not the most foundationally strong deck. But you know, so at the start of this weekend we had 11. I got a bye in the last round and still got 4th, which felt weird. I took a look and the bye is random if there are tie-in points. I was wondering if it made sense to use strength of schedule or extended strength of schedule to break ties when determining the bye. It's definitely something to think about, Cold Lava. If there's 11 players, I feel like you should be running 6 rounds. So I would be a little bit surprised that someone would get 4th off of a bye. I feel like there should be people getting fewer wins than that. I think it was mainly a weird thing where 7 people were tied after 5 rounds. Yeah, and then half of them got the bye. I mean, that's like a pretty phenomenally... Okay, actually, hold on. Is the tournament on Always Be Running? Or Aesop's Table? Excuse me. This was the New Jersey startup? Or the NYC standard CO? Yeah, okay, that's probably what it was, right? Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a thought that you could... Okay, let's see. So 5 games, 5 games, 5 games, 6 games, 5 games, 5 games, 6 games, 5 games, 6 games, 6 games, 6 games. Yeah, it's definitely a thought. I think my thesis is basically that pairing on strength of schedule or extended strength of schedule is a little bit dubious to me, because it is a little bit I think everyone you see that has 9 or 12 points was tied after round 5. I mean, like, to some extent, like, that's pretty wild, right? That you've got that all these players are at 9 points probably going into round 6. Like, probably I'd expect a few more of those to be at 3, and then that makes the tiebreaker a little bit easier, though maybe if these people had all gotten buys, it's just a little bit random. Yeah, so let's see, because it's like, yeah, you got the buy and it gets you in, but like your strength of schedule, like if Alex had gotten the buy, who was, oh no, Alex did get a buy, okay. I mean, the way I look at this is you actually only placed above 1 person who didn't get a buy, right? You placed above Eli. And if they got the buy, you'd still have placed above them, I think. And everyone else at 9 had already received... Oh, no, and Kevin, I guess. Like, Kevin actually had a higher strength of schedule. Now, maybe this gets warped by the last round, but I don't know. I'm not sure that there is a... I don't know that using strength of schedule... I could be convinced. I just don't have a lot of thoughts on whether or not it's the right thing to do with buys. Okay. This was my op list. It has... So... The way I went about building this was... Basically, there was a conversation that I was having in Snare Bears where I was like... So, last week... During the stream or just before the stream, I thought, hey, maybe going back to hard-hitting news op is actually a way that you can play an op deck that can contest ESSA. because ESA has windows of vulnerability where they go all in on the Shushka lines, and if you don't lose, it can be hard to punish those lines as the corp, but hard-hitting news does let you punish, and then they also have a lot of econ tied up in dirty laundries and running raindrops cut stone, which like felt like that's a potential exploitable game plan. And so I was like, okay, well, I also want to play the Biotic Bass Boom, because what I was expecting going into this event was that most people were going to be playing ESA, but I wanted to play Op, and I knew I was going to be, that was just a bad choice. Like, if you had told me, hey Jeff, you get a month off of work, a month paid off of work if you win this CO, I would not have brought Op, right? I probably would have brought PE, which is basically what I say in the first paragraph here. But I do like Op if your meta is lighter on ESA, because you can just force combo win the game against runners that don't have great plans for disrupting that combo. And like, I think this deck is fine against Hoshiko, is my kind of assertion. But if you're going to be playing into a meta with lots of ESA, as Whiteblade's talking about, like, I don't think this deck is the right list. 2 Freedom, 5 Hoshiko, and 7 ESA. Yeah. So, and then what? 2 something else? No, that is, I think missing 1 Anarch maybe. Yeah, which is like, so like, should you play this deck? No, but if you want to have fun, I think this is a great deck to have fun. So the idea is like, oh hey, we have hard-hitting news, which is a way to punish ESA. We have Gaslight, which helps us find hard-hitting news. It also allows us to go down to 1 mutually assured destruction for games where we feel like that's going to be relevant. It lets us search for a Biotic Laborer. Sometimes it'll let us search for an Audacity at relatively low investment. And for those of you who don't know the combo, the idea is that you can play Biotic Labor, then play Mutually Assured Destruction, and trash a 4-cost card and 1 other rezzed card. That then lets you search your deck for a Bass Churnboga. You have 1 click left because you played a Biotic Laborer and a triple. You then click the Bass, and because the runner has 2 tags, you play Boom. This combo is really good against reg runners that don't pack tech. Now, Citadel is pretty common, and there's a really good argument that I should have run a single trust operation, which like just beats Citadel like no one's business. But I sort of figured no one was going to be running Citadel, or if they're running Citadel, I have other lines. And so then it was like, okay, the problem is this deck is running 10 agendas and 3 one-of combo pieces. And so the mill is pretty rough. So I need something to do against the mill. So the hard-hitting news was one part of it. Chrysium Grid, which you can search by trashing a border control, is another element of it. And the other part was trying to go up to really, like, actually a pretty significant ice count. 15 ice is probably 1 more ice than you want to run. And it felt mostly good on the day. I honestly kind of wonder if it should actually be 16 ice, but I don't know what, like, the cut is probably a Malapert Data Vault, I think. And this event in the Swiss, or this deck in the Swiss, one of the reasons this deck is not really good is because it's doing 3 to 4 different game plans, and so it doesn't do any of them terribly well. And so the more consistent decks in Netrunner right now are saying, these are my 1 to 2 game plans, and I'm going to do them as well as possible. And this deck has a bunch of game plans. It can fast advance out, which I did once. Basically the idea there is you score a single You score a single hostile a single project atlas with a project with 1 counter, and then you score a hostile takeover, and then you can biotic labor out 1 agenda, and then audacity out the last agenda. And because you have the atlas token, that ends up being super conditional. I'm sorry, not super conditional. It ends up being surprisingly consistent, and was my out. I won 1 game that way, and if I was going to make a push in the cut, that was going to be my possibility. The second win condition is the mutually assured destruction combo. The third is like, you actually can just score out pretty quickly if your deck rolls up correctly. And then the fourth one is hard-hitting news nonsense, right? Of those, the hard-hitting news nonsense is definitely the weakest. And it's probably the one that you would cut. The thing that worked well for me, kind of like Eric, but not as successfully as Eric, who actually won the event, right? That Eric did with just playing Shaper with Clot, because the Vancouver meta, or the Seattle meta, excuse me, was like full of outfit players. I had been basically conditioning people that if I'm playing Op, it's playing 1 Biotic Labor and 2 Basses, so you can run as aggressively as you want, as poorly as you want, and there's no punishment. And so hard-hitting news is a way to get punishment. Hey, Kat. Now, I think in practice, when I was playing against Snare Bears with this deck, and they know that hard-hitting news is in there, it just doesn't win. And in the final game of the cut, I got completely stuffed by an APOC Hoshiko. So, you know, is there something here? Probably. Is there something that's going to win you a lot of future events? Probably not. I think there's some really... yeah, 70 people for Boston's pretty good. Last year when I ran this event, it was 11, so we basically went up by 50%, which is pretty good. And yeah, I'm pretty... And, you know, if for some reason New York City hadn't been the same weekend, I might have been able to convince some people. And I should have probably also been trying to be more in touch with the Connecticut scene. But no, this was a great event turnout. I'm very happy with that. I should have actually recorded taken notes, because I have already forgotten how many of those games went. Let's see if I can just quickly look. Yeah, so first game was up against Jamie, who was playing Apex, and I basically just like pushed agendas behind ice because it was Apex, and they weren't able to keep up. So that's a little bit soft, but yeah, Kat, I think it is a little bit of a hard sell. I'm hoping that we can come up with a single New England CO to kind of bomb as a semi-regional, with Connecticut being kind of my proposal. Against Charlotte, I actually drew the HHN at a really good time, and so I actually was able to just land the HHN, and that more or less ended the game, because she just wasn't in a good spot with her hand as Essa to recover. And this was able to be a good time. And then I think round 6 I play Ben, and I was definitely a little bit down against this Hoshiko, but like I wasn't actually that many. I was like maybe had bled only 2 points and had scored a hostile and an Atlas. And then I just drew into Biotic, Mad, and Boom, and I was like, cool, I just win the game. And like that's kind of the fun thing part of the fun thing about this deck for me is if you're up against a Hoshiko deck that's just trying to play for value, you sometimes just win, and you can make the deck kind of consistently just win, which I think is cool. I think the fact that like it just has no game into Essa means that you can't really play it, but maybe smarter players than me can figure out ways to kind of keep pushing it. And then round 8, I forget. I think Hank, I ended up having to, like, one of the things I started doing as the event went on was just double icing HQ, which did help the Essa matchup a lot. And then I just kind of, I think this was the matchup where I fast advanced out to get the win, because I just felt like pretty early I wasn't actually able to get the. I think I like milled the biotic early, so I didn't. Or no, it couldn't have been the biotic. I think I milled the bass early, and I was like, okay, the combo. Or no, I milled the mat early. That's what it was. I milled the mat early. And I was like, okay, I can't go for the combo, so let's just score out, and that's basically what I did. I think there's a couple of cute things I like. So the ice wall gives you a second 1-cost target, which means you can extract it to get a spin doctor from your deck, so you don't have to worry about getting milled, which is pretty nice. Having 2 1-cost targets is good. White space was like really good for me 2 games in testing, and then never did anything for me on the day, but it never really hurt. It was just I always drew it, and I wasn't selling sandstones as much. I actually definitely did sell a sandstone at one point, put the white space on a server, and that maybe helped a little bit. So I don't know. I think this is fun. I'm probably going to always be trying to make this kind of, this is the fetch I'm going to keep trying to make happen. I think there was some slightly clever calls, but I think the finals basically was me getting flooded, my opponent being on APOC, and I just couldn't make anything go forward there. I think the deck in theory is probably like at least even into APOC, but when Charlotte's opening, or not Charlotte's opening hand, Holly played the matchup very well, and also started by the end of turn 3, had all 3 bin breakers in the bin, emptied 1 liberated account, and had a fermenter ticking. So I was just like, and I hadn't fired a Rashida, so I was just like super dead in the water. And that is one of the things I feel like is a little bit meh about Corp right now, is like, do you fire a Rashida turn 1 or 2? If not, you're gonna have a really, really hard time. But you know, or you have to be playing something actually good, right? So you have to be playing PE, you have to be playing Ag Infusion, you have to have a really good understanding of how to pivot with different draws, and frankly I just haven't played enough Netrunner to be good at pivoting those draws yet. Which actually kind of leads me into the next thing, is that someone at the event, I should make sure to name check them. Oh my goodness, I have their name. Oh, Derek, thank you. Drove down from New Hampshire and was a relatively new player, and said, "Hey Jeff, I want to talk with you about Corpse being absolutely broken." And actually on Sunday we went and recorded an hour-long conversation, and at the end of it I was like, I think Derek made great points, I think my points were terrible. And so I want to do a little bit more data analysis and try and think about how to ways to think about Corp and talk about Corp's skill level and expression, because basically Derek's point was that Corp, his the simplified version of his thesis that you used to pitch the video, right, is that Corps are just broken. If Corps are winning 60% of their games, then they're just broken, right? They're stronger than they should be. And my argument was like, well, on average, what actually is happening is that low tables are losing more and high tables are winning more as the runner. And then he kind of said, well, that's not really what the results say. If you look at the overall result, only one player in this entire event had a better runner record than Corp record. So what gives? And like, it is, it was interesting for me to be like, okay, I very much experientially feel the difference that, like, I am both a worse runner player, but also know that as player skill goes up, the runner skill is much more expressed, and the win rate of Corpse goes down much more for the same, like, increase in player skill. Like, you hit your ceiling of returns on Corp, and your ceiling for runner gets you higher and closes that gap from like 60-40 down to like 50-50 in most metas. And I didn't actually have good examples of this offhand. And so one of the things I wanted to do was try and dig into that a little bit. Yeah, so exactly, Chris. So like my initial example, and actually let's just swap over to this. This was, I like didn't have this together, even though I'd made it before, and I've talked about this on stream before. This is like the analysis of the CBI results. Hey Hank. And it's like, okay, in the Swiss, the runner win rate was 40%. And then in the cut, the runner win rate was 65%. Because you have to discount one runner win because it's a data entry thing. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Is that right? Oh shoot, I should be able to. Let's go. I think it's group by. We'll just go. What is this? What do I want? I want roll. GitHub Copilot's definitely not supposed to be working still, but whatever. And then it's I think it's supposed to be this. Okay, yeah. So it's basically like Corp won 2/3 of the game. So they went from losing 2/3 of the game, actually a little bit, yeah. They went from having a 40% win rate to a, I'm going to embarrass myself here, 9/14, a 65% win rate. So to me, that is already, like, now the CBI was a very weird meta, right? That was Reality Plus, Drago Reality Plus versus effectively No Free Lunch 419, right? Which is just, to me, was like, that was the quintessential runner favored format. So the question sort of becomes, okay, this is one event. Does this actually hold true? And you can say, and it's like, oh, the first thing is like, it's hard because there's not that many big events, but I should probably just start pulling the big events and see. Because it's like, yeah, probably what's going to happen is in the Swiss, Corps just kind of do better consistently. And it's like, I'm trying to think about how to... So, Oxford, yeah, I agree that CBI, in theory, should have a higher skill floor. Because it's the best player in a local meta. Hey, Bruno. I am not sure that in practice that's that true. Yeah, this is going to be a very low netrunner stream. So one thing I was thinking about is, instead of trying to pull out individual tournaments, is to try and go into the Cobra API, or API, excuse me. But I'm not sure. I don't know about that. Like, part of me is like, oh, what if I go back to Worlds 2022, right? Because I can get the Cobra ID for that really quickly. That's a very large event. And like, to me, if there's two events that show this, and there's like experiential play things where it's like, as runners get better, they make better decisions, and you can see this, maybe that actually means something. And I don't know that I'm going to fully convince Derek about this, but that's like kind of, I'm not like, oh, that's fine, but it's like, to me, that's, you know, there's a lot of stuff. Why not just use the AMT data? Well, this is, oh, you know what? Because it's been a little bit while since I've actually done the AMTs. I think that's a good point, Chris, as well. Is that runners do make way more decisions. just realized that huge hegemony that quantitative analysis has over qualitative analysis. So I think actually, Chris, you hit on one of the points that I didn't make, and this is why I was like, I want to hold off on making a video about this, because I think it's worth talking about. Like, people are going to have better rebuttals than I did. And I think, yeah, runners have to make way more decisions. So corp decks are built, like, I think every corp deck in Netrunner is essentially built around asking a question. It's, can you do the runner, can you make the correct decision here? And good corp decks ask the runner to make lots of very difficult decisions with the idea that they will make decision incorrectly. There are a couple of corp decks, in particular combo decks, that tend to say, no, you don't have to make decisions, you have to beat me on a clock. But it's been a long time since there's been a reliable and good combo deck. The op combo decks, like, kind of do that, but they have, and this is maybe, like, if you're gonna take my op list and do something with it, I would say strip it back to the 5/3s. You can just try and score out 5/3s and hostiles. Excuse me. And I lost my thought because chat scrolled and I wanted to answer questions there, but what was it? Yeah, it's completely gone now. So, Voidath, just a small question. Experiential equals anecdotal. As I'm using it, yeah. Experiential is, I'm just meaning that as from my experience, which is at the definition of an anecdote. Oh, right. Okay, my point was, like, corps are about asking runners lots of questions. Combo decks are the exception to that rule, which is maybe why some people call fast advanced decks combo decks, because it really is the corp going to assemble the combo of fast advanced cards before the runner gets through. Basically, every other corp deck is about giving the runner complex decisions. If the runner has a properly constructed deck and knows exactly what the priorities are, like, you could imagine if the runner could know, like, if the runner did know the entirety of the corp's known information, I think runner should be like a 70 to 80% win rate. Like, it actually is, like, pretty astounding how much corps rely on information and difficult decision making. And so as player skill goes up, that gap is going to narrow. Now, the things that Derek was complaining about, or Derek's points were, and I think there was a couple of them of really good points. And, like, I want to actually, when I go get around to compiling this data, making this information, I want to make sure that I give him a voice, because his point's really good. So if he's watching or someone recommends this to him later, the reason I'm not taking that conversation and turning it into a video is because I sounded like an idiot. I thought his points were great. It was basically a couple-fold. If the game is truly, at the highest level of play, 50-50, that means that at, oh, okay. Thanks, Hank. I'll turn down the, oh yeah, okay. The volume level is a little bit close. Hopefully that takes it down to a little bit, we should be a little bit closer, but, I found myself singing a song and dance in FA decks to try to distract the runner from the combo. Not the same breadth of decision making as a mid-range Glacier deck. Yeah, I think that's a good thing. I think that's true, Chris. And it's kind of my point, is that with fast advance, it's like, don't run here, because I'm putting shiny object over here. But, like, if the runner, like, that's a smaller decision space that the runner has to screw up in. Where in mid-range, it's like, is this a turn that the runner is supposed to run HQ or not? Is, like, a game, it's super, super pivotal and very punishing if they get that wrong. So yeah, but their point was, if it's truly if, the top players are somewhere around 50-50, but the overall balance is around 60-40 as a design goal, that means necessarily at lower tables, it's going to be like 70-30 somewhere. And maybe that's a bad thing if the game is balanced around corps being 70% win rate at low tables. And his point was that right now a big reason that the corp win rate is so high is because hard-hitting news and Obokata Protocol are a little bit bullshit. And it's one of those things where I'm like, you know, for getting from that low mid skill to like competitive in the cut, that really is the difference, is knowing as the runner how you're, not just that those cards exist, which I think is a thing that people learn pretty quickly, but what your game plan is for handling, like, how are you supposed to play with those cards in the pool is really tricky. And like takes a lot of practice, and like people see me screw up all over the place. And I think fundamentally HHN isn't NPE, and Derek was like, yeah, HHN's not really NPE, but it's maybe too strong. And I'm like, maybe it's too strong. I'm not sure that it actually is, and I don't want people to clown on this, to like try and dunk on this take, because I think it is worth taking a little bit seriously. Not that hard-hitting news, because the take isn't that hard-hitting news is bad for the game, or that hard-hitting news is like super overpowered, because, you know, in good faith, when I told Derek, like, hey, at high-level play, it's an interesting and integral part of the game, and often ends up being kind of blank, or a tempo exchange, or like, you know, has these interesting trade-offs. And he was willing to give me that benefit. You know, he's like, I don't play the game that way, but I kind of believe you. But at the same time, you know, if you go back to the event, right? Just very quickly, like by the time you're like, actually, it's not as bad as it's really like the bottom couple, like a couple people won no games as the runner, and then a couple people lost a bunch, but a lot of people were close to even. So it's actually a little bit hard, like, but then, like, if you look at their corp records, they're basically all one up on corp, which is kind of interesting. And yeah, Aksu, I think, like, this is the thing, is, like, the way corp power is distributed right now is really, really strange. Yeah, this event was, I actually need to make a stats page for individual events but actually I can just pull up the Always Be Running, which will have the same thing. Right, this event was 70% Anarch, which is a lot of Anarch. Yeah, more Apex than Shaper as well. Yeah, there was two Apex players and one Smoke player. Sorry. Cookie down. Yeah, Solomir. Anarch, I mean, you don't even, like, Anarch is super, super strong right now. And look, did I call it in my meta video that Shaper was getting killed for Anarch sins? Completely. Like, Anarch is just broken right now. Like, there's no reason to play anything else. Shaper won the biggest CO of the weekend. Yes, let's go and look at that CO real quick. Because you've asked me, what should the meta look like if Shaper's going to win something? I would say it needs to be an all fast advanced meta or a very slow deck. And if you look, fast advanced outfit, slow Acme. I don't know how he beat Joe. Seems like a lot of luck. And I think he even said as much. Fast advanced outfit, like, this was, if we look at IDs, there was 3 outfits in this meta. 3 Ismaris, 3 Ops, 3 and 4 sports medals, right? So 4 sports medals, like 7. So basically a third of the event was people playing fast advanced decks. And so if that's the situation and you're worried about like, oh, he won on time. Okay. Yeah, like to me, the other thing, and this is no knock to Eric. Like Eric is a phenomenal Netrunner player and only had to win 2 runner games to get into the cut. And so to be honest, like Eric played against good players, but like he didn't have to play against the best players in the event to make it into the cut on Shaper. So like I think, and this is not, also not meant as a knock on Eric's opponents. Just like the way that these events work, you're gonna be favored in a player like Eric who is playing really well should be favored against his round 1 and round 2 opponents. Alex and Charlie, who finished like, I don't see an Alex and Charlie, which does make it a little bit difficult. So maybe they're one of these. Maybe Binkle Bonkle is Charlie. We can try and cook. Joe and Victor were the other 2. Charlie was 4th. Okay. Yeah, so number 4, number 10. So actually like pretty solid opponents, right? But if you told me that a top 4 finisher beat the number 10, I'd believe that. And like, I don't know. It's and we see that he was paired up against Fast Advanced Outfit in round 2. So this is an ideal matchup. And then, you know, Alex was playing the Rush Asmari deck and didn't quite rush hard enough. And like this deck, and something that's a good call by Eric, is that Reaver Shop is going to recover from going to 0 credits because they can pre-install all of their credit stuff and then unload it really quickly to try and bounce back, which I think is actually a really cool thing this deck can do. I think this deck has like real functional issues against other stuff, but I think Eric made a very, very good meta call. You know, I could like to me it feels like the reason I was like, oh, maybe I should make a video about both of these is Eric made a great meta call and won an event off of it. I made some reasonable tech adjustments. Won 1 game against Essa because of those. And like was decently positioned because of that and was able to make top 2. But like if either of us were like, oh man, we really need to make sure to win, like you probably bring a different deck, but you can make fun meta calls and exploit stuff that people aren't expecting at times. And Solomir giving us some extra information. The Seattle folks came into Vancouver last month, and they were all on fast advance / big deal style decks. So yeah, if you see everyone in the meta running that, you know that people are gonna do that. And like the Tuesday before my circuit opener, everyone was playing Essa, so I knew Essa was gonna be super popular. So I felt like, okay, if I'm gonna play Op, which I want to play, I need to make sure I tech for it, right? Okay, but we're gonna go back and try and grab some coding info real quick so that I can get... I'm gonna grab the World Championship to see what we can do with that, and then... oh, I do already have the World's data. Sick. That's hilarious. I literally have already started doing this, but didn't do what I actually want to do. I think someone at one point asked me about calculating an ELO thing, so I I did that. Let's see. Is this gonna work for me, or are you gonna? No, you're gonna throw me an error. Oh, you didn't throw me an error. That's nice. Oh, yeah. Okay, I don't need yellow calculator though. I just want this code. I think this gives me everything I need. I actually do have all the matchup data in here as well, I think. Oh, there's a reason I didn't do this with the world's data. It's that all of the IDs were entered as corpse splits. Which is a real problem for actually doing this analysis. Okay, we're gonna do the 2 circuit openers instead then. Or the 3 AMTs actually at this point. Okay, yeah, let's do that. All right. What? Okay, I think that's all I need. Okay, and then we're just gonna start copying pieces of code over. Okay. Now this is gonna be AMT1. Oh, no, I don't want this to be Python. I want this to be Markdown. There we go. Guess I could be more specific. This is what? When was the first one? It was March. Anarcho Mushroom saying, I think the deck gets a lot better if you cut the Reaver Shop package. So by Reaver Shop package, do you mean Aesop's Pawn Shop and Reaver, or do you mean just Reaver? Because one of the things I feel like, I guess maybe you just play Fermenters, right? So you got the Pawn Shop, the Reaver, the Harbingers, you play some Fermenters in its place. I guess the thing to me about that is, at that point, I feel like you really are just playing a bad criminal deck or a bad anarch deck. Where your one upside is SMC Clot, right? Hold on, we'll go and look at Eric's deck. Okay. Yeah, so you've got 2 Fermenters already. You could cut the Reaver Harbinger for like a Begalter, I guess. I miss Bones, probably. Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. It's like, because it's like, oh, the cards you want are stuff like Hippo, Clippy, and DJ is decent. Yeah, I think, yeah. I almost think you should run Cleaver instead of Clippy in Shaper, because you save a credit on the install and end up breaking for basically the same. Like, the paying 6 to install a paperclip, and you still have to spend a click to install it because you put down your SMC is pretty brutal. And then you have to go and break the ice, and it's like, what, Bulwark that you're worried about? I think Propeller you can actually use to handle a Bulwark. If I'm remembering Bulwark correctly. And like, you're also already very ahead in that matchup. for Acme and Ag. What's Data Ward at? Because, like, serious question, could you just install 2 turbines against Acme and Ag Infusion, and then you're breaking Data Ward for 5 credits with Clippy, right? Or with, no, it's just 2 to boost and 2 to break. So it's 4 credits with double turbine Cleaver against Acme. And I don't think Chiashi's a real card. Right? But it's the same cost. Yeah, maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe it's Paperclip's still too efficient. I don't know. I just, when I'm thinking about, like, if I'm up against Esmari, if I'm up against PE, if I'm up against Sports Metal, if I'm up against all these other, like, yeah, it probably does depend on what you can do with one influence. It's just, like, yeah, I guess, like, if you put in a little bit more draw, like, this list is, like, when you cut Reaver, right, you have to put a lot more draw into your deck. And so it's like, oh yeah, if I can play VRcations and, like, discard that Paperclip, like, great, right, that's fine. I'm now making up for it. But it's like, yeah, I don't know. I think people overrate Paperclip slightly in Shaper, because Cleaver is quite good against a lot of stuff. And costs you the same costs. It's interesting to see. I guess maybe you can just slow down the fast matchups. I would worry that Asmari rushes you out if you don't have more draw, but I also have not been playing any Shaper, so. Okay, let's get back to the code. No overclocks? No, overclock's a bad card. Overclock's ass. It's, people play it because we used to play Stim Hack, but it's no Stim Hack. Like, it's so bad. Oh, I should probably get this. Shaper is better than thought, but still not actually worth bringing, I think is kind of correct. Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of... It's not that, like, you can't play Shaper, even though I think that is how the video came across and probably was what I literally said at some point. But it's just, like, any game plan I'm doing in Shaper, I can play in Anarch. Like, if I was playing Hoshiko and I was super worried about fast advance, you could just spend 2 influence on... You can get an SMC and 2 simul chips and, like, win that matchup too, I think. Maybe you have to do 2 SMCs and 1 simul chip. I don't know. Like, you do some fiddling with that. And, like, I think you're just as good as a Shaper deck, but you also get all of the broken Anarch cards. So, I don't know. What are the 3 mandatory influence Anarch has to spend? I'm not even sure what it has to spend. Yeah, Chisel Charm. Like, I think, yeah. What am I doing here? I'm trying to, like, get some stuff over. Okay, we're just gonna start copying code and see how that goes for us, because past Jeff must have been brilliant, right? So we're going for AMT March. Nope. And this is going to be... And then we'll run this and see if it works. Cool. Let's look at this. Okay. We've got... Oh, okay, this is actually what I had up already, it looks like. Oh, probably because I copied this exact code. So let's go and get the actual AMT code. That might help me a little bit. Though that might be the AMT. Oh, I might not have one of the AMTs, but that's fine. I should be able to find it at some point. Fix this. There we go. Here we are. Great. Where's their runner ID? Oh, there it is. On the left-hand side. Okay. Do I actually need any of that? Ah, cool. Matches. Great. Okay, cool. So, oh no. What are you doing to me? In future version, object on columns with all bool values will not be included in reductions with bool only equals true. What? So basically cast a bool data type instead. Ugh. So Salamir, what I'm trying to do is look at the relative runner and corp win rates for strong versus less strong players. Okay, so what I need to do is say matches. What do I need to? I need to grab intentional draw, 2-for-1, and elimination game as Oh, glad to hear the draft went well. I'll definitely be interested to hear what changes you felt like what feedback you thought was useful and actionable. And what changes you made. Oh, how much do I care about this future warning? Wait, but I'm not even using this bool only true. Why would it tell me this? Am I just making a data table really badly? I think I might be. Yeah, I think I just need to hold on. Let's just... I mean, like, this is actually terrible code, but let's just see if throwing this on at the end gets rid of the code or not. I just don't like this error, but it doesn't actually do anything. It's just like telling me if I update. Okay, cool. That doesn't work. Well, it was a good shot. Okay, cool. So yeah, buffing the corp starter with attitude adjustment over special report. I think that's a great call. And regal if this is the corp money asset. Yeah, I think those are both great improvements to the draft. Is it like PD as... What is it called? Oh my goodness. Okay, we're gonna... Apologies. I'm gonna... You know what? This isn't a warning that I don't actually need to care about. Because it's a future version, a future warning. I also dropped Temujin. Didn't include just downgraded it. No, it is a. I count Temujin to Miss Bones is this huge downgrade. I wouldn't even go close to putting air quotes on that, but that's fine. I think I know what's going badly here, but we're just gonna hide the outputs and keep going. Okay, so if we just call matches with all bool values, yeah. Usually cast a bool data type instead. I'll figure this out at some point. Oh, right. This is, okay, to get this, I filter the games, and then I get the sum of runner scores and corpse scores. Fantastic. Okay. I mean, I can basically just take this. I find it very funny that you're both telling me that Miss Bones is really good, but Moons is not good in draft, and I don't think those two statements can coexist. All right, so this AMT has run rate of 40.7. Now, what I should probably do is I should get players, right? Is it my players data frame? Fantastic. So, let's say I want to make it, there's 30 players. I forgot that we had 30 players. That's wild. Okay. So let's say we want the top 5th, maybe? Top 20%. So it's going to be math I should be able to do in my head. It's going to be, that would be the top, no. Top 6 players. That's 5 times 6, right? Oof. Okay, so I go players to 5. Great. Okay, so now what I want to do... That's fair, that's fair. I shouldn't... I think I still always pick a Moons if it's an option. Because Moons behind a single piece of ice is very annoying for basically every runner to deal with. Okay, so I want to get... I want, like, Loke, I think. I think it's like this. ID. Just give me what I want. Cool. Okay, and now I want Swiss played games. Okay, so oh, this doesn't wait. I think this ID is player ID. Okay, so let's go. We're gonna go. Oops. We're gonna go PD merge. So I'm gonna try and merge these data frames. Oops. On ID. Let's see if that works at all. Fantastic. Okay. So now I basically need to do the same. Ugh. Okay, I need to get... Okay, so for those of you who code, I always... when I write pure Python code, I always use the black auto formatter. That like it just makes it means I don't actually have to make nice looking code. I just hit save and it cleans it up for me. And I just found out like earlier this week that you can have it installed for your Python notebooks, but I haven't actually done it locally here, which is okay. But anyway, okay, so I want to get runner score. I think that's what... Oh, you're right. I am pulling the... Yeah, okay. We can get the top 6. And that would be... No, I think I... Wait, hold on. Oh, yeah, you're right, because this is not 0 index. I'm so used to stuff being 0 index so that if I have the 5th player, I'm good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5... No, I am pulling 6 players. Okay. Because pandas is 0 indexed, so I'm pulling from index 0 to 5, which is 6 players. Okay. And we want to aggregate and sum. Okay. So actually we still have a super, super high... okay. Interesting. So not actually that different, I think. Because if we take home top 6 score equals this, and then we say top 6 score runner score okay, so basically the exact same win rate as the overall event. That's an interesting data point, right? And then we should probably also look at the cut games too. And here we see runners win 2/3 of their games. So we're seeing the kind of thing that we always see, right? Which is corps dominate in Swiss, runners dominate in cut. So let's move on to the next AMT, and we can maybe try and compress this all down to a shorter block of code. I need to go find the next AMT. This is going to be the May one, because I know where that one is. Oh yeah, this had a much smaller subset of players. This was only a 13-person event. So it's a little bit harder to get good results out of. Oh, I'm sorry. No, this was a 20-player event. Okay, still enough to get good results. I'll probably only take the top 4. I should probably just make this a function, right? Okay, let's just go and do def get matches table. Hey, Augustus. I would say not yet. And we're gonna go TID string. We're gonna go R equals. Nope, that's nothing like what I want. Okay. Yeah, so like hey guys, so the idea here is that, and like I think so someone was at my event and saying corps are broken and overpowered and it's unfun for low skilled players. And I can't do anything about the last point. I kind of was like, I don't think corps are actually broken. I think corps are like this is the best I've felt like for corps in a while. Like I think they're in a decent spot. But not by any means like in a, what am I saying? Let me not try and code and pontificate at the same time. Corps are actually really fair at high level play. And the game is balanced overall 64. Like there is a design preference in the game that if one side's gonna be slightly more powerful on average, it should be the corp. And this person's response was, right now it feels super unsatisfying to play as the runner because I feel like I can't win. Um, and that there are certain cards, there's a bunch of corp cards right now that time walk the runner if they make a mistake. And sort of my point is that, and then another part of the argument was, well, I played L5R. Scorpion players always said that they were not overpowered. They were one ban away from being like terrible, and then they kept banning them, and they were still the best. And so when good players say we need to make a runner weaker, what they're actually doing is making it harder for everyone else, and they're not like, and it would be a bad choice for the game to make runners weaker. And I think there's like a lot of different things happening in that conversation. But the first thing I wanted to do was, like, one thing they were saying is, hey Jeff, even at your event where you claim that runners are going to do better as player skill increases, every single player did better with corp than they did with runner. And when you look across most events, that is true for every part of the Swiss. And so do you have any data that actually shows that as player skill goes up, that runner win rate goes up? And so that's what I'm trying to get at here. That's where I'm starting, at least. This is going to be... This is actually just doing players again. I don't need to like keep doing this. But this is actually not what I want. I want to grab... Okay. Shoot, just grab them. Oh, okay, and then we're going to grab... Beautiful. Is it the point that you can separate out a skill as runner versus corp? I think, Chris, that is a reasonable point. It's hard to do in Netrunner tournaments, right? We don't get to have players that just do one or the other. Like, you play both. I think there's, like, Analyze Chris was talking about external. I think I do have data. I didn't have it at my fingertips for that conversation. So part of what I'm trying to do right now is go and get that data. Like, it's relatively old data, and it's worth asking, is that still true in this meta? Like, this meta could be different. I think it's, like, a consistent story in the cut that runners win a ton in the cut. And you might argue it's because there's open decklist information. I think the challenge for that, for me, is decklists are basically known after about 3 to 4 rounds of Swiss in large events. People have a pretty good sense of what's in the meta most of the time. So I have a hard time believing it's just known the deck list. Okay, and then we get matches equals we're just gonna, even though this code gives me an error, I will figure that out off stream, because that's the not fun type of processing. Yeah, Chris, that is part of the problem, where I'm like, oh, in this Swiss event, the corp win, like, here, right? For the top 6 players, their win rate was the same as the average Swiss, right? Like, basically exactly the same. But they probably played fewer overall games, and we get less information. And every time they 2-for-1, we lose information about what's going on, which is, like, one reason it's not a good reason, but it's a reason I like single-sided Swiss, that you actually get all this information all the time. I should maybe put a check mark in for intentional draws, so like mark intentional draws in Aesop's tables. And by probably should, I mean definitely should. Okay, so we're almost done with our super function. Actually, probably what we should just do is just return this value. Return matches players and elim rankings. Cool. And this will give us our three things. Get table. We're gonna call this get tournament tables. Okay, and then we're gonna try get tournament tables 2892. We get lots of warning messages, and then we get a tuple of different tables. Beautiful. It's ugly, but yeah. Okay, so then what you do is you say, we're gonna call this whoops, not match. March. Oh wait, we can just go March matches, March players, March elim ranking. Shoot, how do I suppress the future warnings? Hold on 1 second. All right, thank you, Google. Don't really want to tell you about my notebooks. Thank you very much. Yes, let's go. Go away, messages. Yeah, if I had any stake, if I had any authoritative voice in making the game better, this would be great data to have on hand. But fundamentally, I think we're always going to have a low data problem in this community until this game explodes in a way that it hasn't since a long time. Okay, so now I can delete this. I can delete this. And then, you know what, let's just make a function that says def get runner win rate Swiss. And we're going to have an n, which should be an optional variable. I'm going to call this 0 int. If n greater than 0, we'll do some stuff. We're gonna get, oh, we probably need to pass it a matches and a players. We don't need this elim rankings though. And players, can I do or none equals none? Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Python, for working the way I'd want you to. Okay, so we can go n equals 0 or none equals none. Oh no, this isn't quite right. It's int or none equals none. Oh, maybe it doesn't. Oh no, it's just telling me it's not accessed. Okay. If n is not none and players is not none, then we're gonna do pass. We're gonna do get top n players win rates. Oh, actually, no, we have an easier, let's do this in the easier way, where if n is none, if n is none, n equals length of players. If n is greater than length players, n equals length of players. Fantastic. I would love to do an AI project on playing Netrunner, but it is super hard. Actually, let's just do... Actually, let's just not let players be none. And we're going to put this up front. Oh, actually, no. What we're going to do is just move this to the end. Whoa. Okay. If players is none, or matches is none, raise. Great. Cool. Okay. Tell me if the ace and find out the optimal play is actually start getting turn 1 every time. Yeah, for sure. Okay, so that's enough stupid boilerplate up front. We will just go and basically move this code in, right? So Swiss play games equals matches. Matches not equal intentional draw. Matches not equals 2 for 1. Not equals 2 for 1. Results. And then we return, instead of printing, we return, let's just return the tuple, which is, actually, let's return it as a dictionary. That's going to be easier. Okay, so we're going to call this corp wins. Okay, I've got to do a lot of little reformatting here. We say runner wins, and I need to put a this time. Oh, I just want this as int, right? Well, whatever. Just round it to 0. That should be almost the same thing. It's not quite the same thing, but... and then we just want to make this simpler. Actually, we just do this. Thank you all for sticking it out. This is quite the stream choice that you guys are all watching, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Yeah, well, I've got a second. There's like another thing I want to talk about briefly, because it's something I've been thinking about a lot, or at least a little bit. But okay, I think this should work. If n is if n greater than length players, lol. Okay, so now if I call get runner win rate Swiss, March matches, March players, I get a dictionary of runner wins, corp wins, and then I can say runner wins, corp win. Actually, actually, I wonder how this works. Let's see what this does. I actually don't know how. If you try and unpack a dictionary like this. Okay, it gives you the key, which is not quite what I want. So I want wins. Wins. And then I take runner wins. No, I go wins. Runner wins. Divided by wins. Runner wins plus wins. Corp wins. And we should get that 40% number again. Great. Okay. So times 100. And then we get our result. Okay. And then if I call the same function, but I say n equals 5. Oops. Hopefully this works. Oh, no, it doesn't work because I haven't done anything with that n yet. Lol. Okay. So I need to get Okay, so then I take players loc n ID. Okay, so I actually say, okay, so then we're like, okay, here's what it is. Okay, I need to do an intermediate step here, which is I take this, I go, we'll call this Swiss Plate Games still because, you know, what's a little bit of variable creep, right? PD, merge, and I grab this, and then I grab Swiss Plate Games. But Swiss Plate Games I don't think has 2 IDs in it. I think I can just call Swiss Plate Games here and get something. Yeah, it just has an ID. So Copilot's just a dummy. Okay, just say on ID. There we are. Okay, and I think now, oh, I lost a parens. I lost a bunch of parenses. Okay, so now if I run this, and I run this, but now if I run this, it should get me a different number, and it does. Huzzah! Okay. Though actually what I want to do is if I want 6 players, so I should actually go n-1, because I want people to be able to put in a number that they expect. Which now means I need to say if n is none, or n is, or n less than or equal to 1. Okay. Running parallel, this is not my first time coding it. This was my first time coding it. So, also data science is only half coding sometimes. So, yeah, this is me cheating off of my past work. Okay. And then we can do def get win rates cut. What do I need for this? I need matches, and that's kind of it, right? We should also not call this. We should call this get win rates Swiss. Oh, and I didn't redefine it everywhere. Ugh. I've made my job harder. I have to copy and paste a couple of times rather than just renaming. I mean, I shouldn't trust this because it's working the first time, but okay. So what do I need to do? It's I mean, it's basically I just need to return this function. Like it's amusingly much easier. This is going to be a lim matches. And it's basically because this data is set up nicer for me. Return or wins or matches. And it's actually slightly different from this. Okay, wait. Now I have to remember how to do this. Okay, if I just do this, right? Okay, so if I actually just run this code, I call a lib matches, and then I say a lib matches. How do we get? Okay, hold on. Okay, so I instead call March matches on this. If I then call index corp, does that do anything or is that error? Okay. If I go loc corp this, does that get me something? Okay. If I do. Okay. Let's see what this value is. Okay. If I then call loc roll equals corp. Okay, no, I need to. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna call this results, and then we're gonna just call results just to make sure I get this. And I'll come up with a better name for it later. He says, lying to himself, roll equals corp, and then if I do this, and then I get, this still doesn't really get what I want. This doesn't get what I want, though. I want to... Wait, can I just transpose this index? And then if I take results T corp, if I go... What happens if I run reset index on this? Kind of curious. I mean, this feels kind of close. Is corp always going to be first? This is the thing I'm battling here. I'm spending too much time on this. Hold on. Let's just go in. Oh, if I make index equal to, this shouldn't be this hard. I hate when it's like, this is like one of those things where I'm like, I know there's a good way to do this. Is it just like I use something like roll equals corp, and then I go and grab 0 from results, and then I get, what if I just say like this times 2? Like, does that get me 4? Okay. And I go like as type int. Okay, it's already, I like kind of don't want it that way, but whatever. Okay, well, you know what? We're just gonna, and then let's just quickly check to make sure this code works, right? Great. Okay, so it's gonna be ugly, but and then we take this code and we put this here, and we go corp. We run this, and then we run, get win rates cut. No, we want March matches, and we take cut results, and then we say cut results runner wins divided by no. Oh, that's not what you want. Fuck. Well. Well. It's not working on the first time, at least. Okay. Sorry, I'm just doing some searching. Okay, so in theory, this kind of should have worked. March matches. Then we're gonna go Olymp matches. Okay, so it's supposedly if I go loc. If I do this, what does this get me? So what I actually want here is 0. And that, yeah, but this is exactly what I did, right? So this is Olymp matches roll equals corp, right? But this is giving to me in a data frame. Oh, apparently, because this software is so well made, because programming is very clear, if I do this, nope, okay, it lied. Internet lied to me. Can I get, okay. Can I get values? Ah, okay. Well, coding is the worst. And it's values 0, or is it values? Okay. Absolutely obscene that someone would make me do this. Type in one extra word. Okay. Hey, there we go. Okay. All right, so now we did all of this hard work so that we can just copy and paste 2 lines of code instead. So I grab this and I go, this is May matches, May players, May Olymp equals get tournament table. This, and then we say, then please just go and do this. Okay, let's see what this gives us. 34%. Runners are getting worse over time. That's not what you'd necessarily expect. And then if we look at cut results equals get win rates by cut May matches, and we run this. Oh no. Did runners not win in the cut at all? Oh my goodness. Okay, May matches. Okay, we're gonna grab this code and we're gonna call this. Unexpected indent. Wait, does this not have a cut at all? Oh, maybe it didn't have a cut. Or maybe something's wrong with May matches? Oh. Hey, if you still call the function that's erroring, it's still going to keep erroring. Okay. Okay. So this was just done as a best... There's 2 games played and Corpse won them both. Which maybe you'd expect of a 35%. Okay. So hard to get data from that. 100% win rate across 2 games. Pretty good, pretty good. Well, so much for that point. Top 3 single limb. Yeah, that makes sense. I think it's a decent format for smaller events. Though I'm not super wed to it if people want it to be top 4 instead. Okay. So we want the April. Okay, let's see if I can find the... Sorry, I'm just looking on my screen that you guys can't see for the April. Yeah, top 4 is the same amount of time. It's... Oh, that's a bummer. I think it's 1 match at a time is slightly more exciting. Okay, let me just show what I'm looking at here. So you actually I can pull up all the matches here. Oh, actually, hold on. I'm now really curious about something. I wonder if this is going to work for other stuff. Does it work here? No, it matches... Oh, wait. Ah, bummer. Okay, so something's going wrong with how I've encoded matches. Drat. Because this is pretty cool. So, like, the data is here. And we see... Jinsei wins an even amount of times. So runner win, corp win. Runner win, corp win. And then corp win, runner win. Corp win, runner win. So 3 to 4. Yeah, when I see stuff like this, though... Oh, okay, no, so these are 2-for-1s. Cool. I didn't know this was a thing until literally 30 seconds before I showed it on stream. I need to figure out what's wrong in my encoding, because there's no reason like you can't do the same thing, and I just must have like misnamed something by 1 or something. Because this data is stored in the JSON, and like there is enough data in the Aesop's JSONs to also reconstruct this. Honestly, though, the thing I actually need is how the fuck he did this. Because I want to get this into Aesop's tables. This is the thing I need the most in Aesop's tables. This is the feature I would kill for right now. I'm sure it requires some JavaScript, and I just have to bear it. I really just want the Cobra number for this, but I can't get it. And it's not on the recent tournaments page. I guess I could just like keep going backwards, right? So this is 977, 976, 975, 974, 973, 972. Oop. 972, 971. Wait, let me, before I'm going crazy. This is 280, and 2892 was the March one. So it's not, there haven't been that many. Oh wait, that's actually a ton of events. That's over 100 things I have to go through. But this is quick, right? Oh. Okay, this is... Oh, that's funny. Oops. All right, well that's funny that you can find some weird stuff on here. This is super. Oh, I guess I could also like write a script that does this and looks for like the word AMT, right? But that is probably going to take longer than scrolling through a dozen, like 50 of these. Oh, well, that one's private. Okay, that's fun that that error occurs. Oh, that one's just a oopsie oopsie. Okay. Oh, can't do that. Okay. 48. Man, there's a lot of events. Okay, come on. We can find this. It shouldn't be that far. I guess I should know that it's probably in like the... Should be much further down. But, yeah, manual scraping. Yeah, this is Scrapegate all over again. But done the... Oh, there we are. Woo! Okay, we got there. We got there. This one had 30 players. Great. And so now we can go back to VS Code and we can run all of our functions again. And then we go April matches, May matches, May lim equals get tournament 2936. And then, oh, I should probably just run this code, right? Intentional draw didn't exist? What? Oh, well, let's start with it this way. Okay. Oh, that's not right. Oh. Oh my goodness, it is getting too late for me. Oh boy. Alright, this stream may not go on too much longer if I'm making those sorts of mistakes. And this should probably be April players. Okay, so a 44%. So improvement, actually significant improvement for the runner. And then if we go to cut results equals get win rates, April matches, and then we run this 57%. Okay. I started at 8:45, I think. I had to be in work, or that's when I was at work, but I started my day before that. So, and today was a long day. So yeah, it's been 12 hours of doing this kind of thinking and coding and stuff. So I'll give myself a bit of slack. But okay, so across most major events that play a significant number of cut matches, and the this AMT, or where are we? Yeah, this plays 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 matches. We're showing some runner favor in situations where runners are doing worse in the Swiss. So, one conclusion you can make from this, and if I think it's like the other thing that I made this whole function for, right, was I can go and I can go, this is a 30-person event, so we'll take n equals 6 again. And yeah, runners are outperformed. The top 6 runners or top 6 players are outperforming as runner. I wonder if we take it to the top 4. Probably it's basically the same. And I think actually it's going to kind of always normalize, I think, so, and this is actually, as I think about this, if playing the runner is harder, I think you should still expect in Swiss to see that good players' corp win rates will be a little bit higher, even if because if your opponent throws the game, there's nothing, you're just gonna take the win. And I think a big part of what Derek was trying to say is it feels much easier to lose the game as the runner than it is to win the game, which I think is true, and I think can be a cool part of Netrunner, is that as the runner, not only are you statistically a little bit unfavored, but you kind of feel one person going up against a mega corporation probably shouldn't be favored, and it's kind of a fun power fantasy to be I battled against big immovable forces and I won. And so having the runner be slightly unfavored has a kind of narrative satisfaction, and if you play both sides in the event, it's kind of statistically should be fine. And I think another thing I was thinking about and talked with Derek about is because of the way the game is structured, and because the corp has cards they actively don't want, they can't do anything with, they're just dead cards, and drawing them actually helps their opponent. Corp decks, while they draw a lot more than they do when the game was printed, they still don't draw as much as the runner does. So the runner is going to see 2/3 to their entire deck every game by turn 12. They'll probably, I think most runner decks can deck themselves by turn 12, right? Which means if they have an engine, they're going to see every piece of that engine at some point in every game. But for corpse, you just don't have that flexibility, and so your game plan is a lot more based on when and what you draw, and you're not going to have the same smoothing experience that you will as the runner. And so when people are really, as skill level goes up, your ability to exploit the fact that your game is going to be the same overall is going to go up, and your random losses are going to go down, just through decision making and consistency. Whereas corps are always going to be a little bit more at the whim of what's on top of their deck. Um, and so that also partly... So then what you do to offset that, because you still want corps to feel powerful, is you give them slightly above curve cards where if you draw them at the right time, they really blow out the game, which isn't necessarily the right design, but is like sort of a direction the game has been with cards like Hard-Hitting News and Obokata Protocol, right? I think Obokata Protocol, I don't have a lot of interest in defending. I think Hard-Hitting News is a pretty fair card. I think I'm excited to see what the meta looks like without it, for sure. And yeah, Solmer, I think my general advice to runners is run less, draw more, and get more money, right? That's like just a thing that good players do better than not good players. Another thing for runners is don't install a card unless you're going to use the card. I see a ton of players install a icebreaker and then not make runs for multiple turns, or install a console and not make runs for multiple turns. There are cases where that's good, where like you were going to have to discard a card, and so you'll put down your breaker. But I see a lot of people, one of the worst for this for me is Anacam, where people will install Anacam and then not play an event that turn, or will have already played an event that turn and then don't play an event the following turn. So they put down a 3-cost break that just set them back in tempo. And then like the next, like first level up, like there's Pinsel, I think in the Itinerant Protesters at one point said, an exercise that every runner should do is only make a run if it's going to cost you the game to not make a run. Every other click should be spent drawing cards or making credits. And just try playing the game that way for a little while. Actually, I'm not sure what you get super triggered about that. I'm not quite sure what you mean. So if you could clarify, I'd really appreciate it. Let's see. But yeah, basically, right, it's as the runner, a lot of what good runner skill has been, and actually I'd like one of the reasons I think ESA is such a cool deck is that it actually breaks these principles just a little bit. But good runner has just been making sure I have a lot of money and then being as efficient as possible with drawing cards and making credits as I can with my deck. Oh, okay, Oxo, yeah, just putting down DZMZ Optimizer without installing anything else for 3 turns. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's another great example card of people, yeah, seeing people pre-install with no value. Yeah, it happens just a ton. Hello, princess. What's up? Why are you bugging me? Why are you bugging me? Doggy time. And yeah, that's another thing, Solomir. That's actually a great one. Is if a card is not doing anything for me this turn, it should probably be. It's the same as not having it in my hand, and I should be drawing for cards that will be useful for me now. You want to go down? You want to go to bed? Okay. I think my dog was trying to get me to go to bed, but yeah, it's a habit that I see runner players mess up a lot. And like there's a lot, it's like, one of the interesting things about like ESA right now is like, oh, against PE, do you just install your console and click for credits and then try and play the matchup that way? Possibly. And like treat the rest of your deck as HP. That might actually be the right way to play that matchup. And so it's like, these are subtle things that runners don't feel like they're making mistakes when they're doing these things. But when you sit down and go, stop, why did you put that card down there? it's a huge deal, and it's like part of the like it's a huge part of why the bin breakers are so broken. Is because they tell you to play Netrunner correctly. They say don't install this ahead of time, just discard it, and it'll be there when you need it. So they like bin breakers are basically plus 2 clicks because you spend a click to draw them instead of the click to install them. So you gain a card by going through them. So it'll be really interesting to see what Anarch looks like without the bin breakers, which hopefully is just a couple months away. But yeah, I think I've kind of talked through things. I'll try and put some thoughts together. You know, it's so when I think about why is Runner actually like, if my claim is Corp is not broken, right? Piece of evidence 1 in cuts, Corp on average, Corp underperforms Swiss. That's just like factual. And then 2, decision space for runners is larger, more room for mistakes. And then 3, runner inherently reactive, which means card pool, board state familiarity, has huge impact. And then 4, bad runner habits are really common. And yeah, Axu, I think that's a good point. It's depends what's considered broken. And the thing that I'm not talking about there is like all of those are critiques of like they're all kind of in the get good kind of level critique. And I think there's a really good conversation to be had about oh, let me make sure that this is music that's kosher to be playing, because that sounds a little bit funky to me. Oh, nope, that's fine, apparently. Or this will get struck in later, but the other thing that what was I in the middle of saying? Oh, if we balance for high level play where you actually have to clear all these hurdles, that makes the game inherently unfair and off-putting to lower skilled people. Because ideally what you should want to see, right, is that as a player gets better at the game, they get better at Corp and Runner at roughly an equal pace, which I think is, you know, if someone's playing an equal number of Corp and Runner games, you kind of hope that they move up the ladder at similar paces, and you hope that their win rates would stay kind of the same throughout. But what we see over and over in Netrunner is people leap forward with, like, a lot of people say, oh, I liked Corp first because I figured out I knew how to win. My deck told me how to win. I started playing how I win, and I started winning a lot. And as Runner, I just got stuck in this morass for a long time. And I think this is a real problem designers, and I don't envy them, trying to figure out. Oh, Eric, this is, actually, this probably does have a song title. I think this is, I can't tell what, wait, hold on. So this is from the, let's see, is this, okay, I'm just gonna go and Google this. Okay, I think it's, hold on. Okay, it's a song called Daffodil by Tennyson. This is from the Riot Creator Safe collection. So like, yeah, you can actually just, this all of my music so far has been some various Riot Sessions music because I wanted to switch it up from the Netrunner hardcore music. And yeah, Eric, actually, your comments the other day about like you were helping a newer player and being like their core game looks really solid, but their runner game looks all over the place, I think is like just this huge hurdle we have to clear, and I don't know. And I think some of it is that the optimal strategy of Netrunner for the last several years has been understand exactly what the corp can do to you and play so that you don't lose if they do any of those things, right? And that's a really hard style to learn organically because it doesn't give you like it doesn't if you say like if you're just in the mid game, it's so hard to know like, oh, I made a run and my opponent had Econ Warfare, HHN, I lost. That run was bad. But it may not have actually been bad. It probably was, but it may not have been. It may have been that your opponent drew the nuts. Or you're playing against like a PD deck and you make a run on a central, you break a drafter for 4 credits, and suddenly you break a drafter for 3 credits, and that actually cost you the game, but you had no way of knowing. And I think one of the cool things about ESSA, and what I hope this was a comment I got from someone at the CO saying, I don't like playing good runner decks, but ESSA is fun. And I think it's like, I think that's a really interesting observation about what the good runner decks have been, is I think they're fundamentally less fun than janky decks to play. And I think that's like it's tricky, and it's like I think the cool thing about ESSA is that she provides you a game plan, and the deck is about going to this game plan, and it has real weaknesses. Like that deck has some really bad matchups, but when you draw cards in your corp deck, you go, okay, this is the end game I'm going for. Here's what it is. And so like everything pieces together, and I think the ESSA deck does that thing very similar. Actually, that's exactly my point, is that ESSA feels like a runner that enforces a game plan. And what has dominated the meta for 4 years at least, 2019, 4 years, is no game plan runner. Runner game plan is stop the court from doing anything, and then because we don't want to go to time, I'll install a Stargate and win the game. And that is that playstyle is really, really hard to know when you're supposed to install Stargate. There have been so many of my streams where I've gone, my opponent installed Stargate on turn 2, that was a mistake. I don't care if they get 4 points off the Stargate, it's going to cost them down the line, and it usually does. Runner game plan for a long time is get richer than the corp. Actually, what was the last game plan enforcing runner before ESSA that was good? It's been a long time. And I think it depends, right? Arguably CS Xayah, I think Hank calls out correctly. Though I think when Xayah is played well, it is... And, like, here's the thing. Like, a Crim deck can be both aggressive and trying to do this no-lose con Crim, right? APOC is enough... To me, APOC is basically fits in the Reg runner game plan right now, where you either contest the remote or you blow up their board. Like, if you just APOC whenever, it's actually bad. You have to APOC like it's like you're playing a control runner. It's just saying, hey, if I play super control runner, I don't need to put any win conditions in my deck. I can just APOC. I think you'd have to go back to like FFG era stuff. Virus Mac, well, I mean, like, this is the thing. All good runner decks have to include control stuff or be doing something completely broken. Like, Diaper is an example of a deck that had no ability to contest the board, or Cold Ones. Those were both decks that had super clear game plans, and, like, they're the far extreme, right? They had no ability to contest the board, basically no plan to do so. They just said, I'm going to make this work. Virus Max is a little bit more, I have powerful tools, I do things differently, I can do a big conduit dig on R&D out of nowhere, and so I have that as a game plan. Noise Shop is another example. I think it's also just stuff like this is the card that I always come back to where I'm like, hey, indexing fit in the control runner package, but it gave the runner windows of aggression that they could use. Account Siphon kind of did the same thing. It still was a control, but you didn't have full game control. You got control early, and then you tried to wrest that into a win, and if you couldn't, like, you often fell out of steam. DDoS decks were a mill thing. Yeah, so it's like Prepaid Kate, Red Crim, and Noise Shop. Like, Red Crim and Prepaid Kate are technically control-y decks, but but the Prepaid Kate deck kind of gave you forward pushes where it's like, oh, I want to get some value out of my prepaids, or I need to draw for things. Like, I think there's this thing where NSG has spent a lot of time, and, like, I am part of the problem here of advocating for and pushing for interesting, really high-level competitive decks. And those are the decks where you're like, oh, if Paladin costs 2 credits versus 1 credit, that makes a huge difference, right? But that's not very satisfying, and it doesn't pull people into the game. It's like one of the, like, chess is a really cool and deep game, but it's also not a very exciting one to start learning. And if you show up to an event and you play against someone that's been playing chess for years and you started playing last month ago, it's hard to have a fun sense of, like, what's pulling me forward, what am I supposed to be doing? And a lot of well-designed board games, like, that will have these branching paths, like, they try and give you clear stuff to do on turn 1, less clear but, like, kind of forking options on turn 2, and it kind of forks out from there and there and there. And, like, part of the appeal of card games is you get this you get the, like, kind of chess level breadth of strategy, you get the randomness that allows people of different skill levels to kind of match a little more evenly. Like, that's mostly what randomness does, is it actually compresses down player skill a little bit. But it's really hard to make that also, like, push people forward in ways that are productive for them without breaking it and making it too strong. Like, a card like Deep Data Mining, I think, is a really, and I should probably pull that card up. Let's just hop over to deck building because I'm going to be talking, right? If we look at something like Deep Data Mining, like, this card is a build around, this is a push card. This, like, you can play Control Runner with this in your deck, but this allows you to say, I don't have to completely lock the board. I can let the corp get away with stuff, and then boom, I can deep data mining for some big payoffs. Hearthstone install a 1-drop on turn 1 versus Netrunner run turn 1 and lose. Yeah, I think that's also a good point. Like, playing the runner is probably the most complex thing you can do in a card game. Because you start out with, like, 4 to 5 basic, like, wait, draw a card, click for a credit, run 2 relevant central servers, run a remote, and then install cards in your hand. You have probably 6 actions that you have to choose from before you, on your very first choice of the whole game. And it just gets bigger from there for a really long time. So, like, to some extent, like, and that's part of why, even though I think having new players start on Atom is a terrible idea, it also makes some sense because it simplifies the game back down and says, okay, here's your objective. It is have only 2 cards left in my hand at the start of my turn. I have to make a run every turn, and I get to access 2 cards from HQ, so I know where I want to go, I know what I have to do, and I know how I want to finish my turn. And so I'm learning to run, I'm learning where to run, and I'm learning how to sequence my plays. And at some point you tell them, okay, get rid of always be running, we're going to switch over to find the truth, so that you now have 2 choices of where to run, and you still want to run every turn, because find the truth still says that, right? And you still have the sequencing. So you get... The problem is, it's not... It's too much still, I think. And I actually like that point about Lat, is that Lat got your partner thinking about sequencing, because you were trying to end your turn with the same number of cards as the Corp had in hand. And so you would say, okay, Corp ends in 4, I've got 5 cards in my hand, and I probably want to draw once. So that should mean I'm looking to play 2 cards out of my hand. Is that possible? Should I change my plan instead? And yeah, I agree there's probably some bad habits in there. I think my biggest complaint is that Lat is just the most boring runner to play. And like, I feel like you should have, like, if Lat was one trigger you were tracking, and then you're like, I'm also building up towards a deep data mining, honestly, that might be enough, right? Where it's like, okay, I'm Lat, I'm trying to sequence my turn, and I'm trying to not install programs, but figure out a way into R&D. That's pretty cool, and I think that's like a good start. And we lack some of these cards in Netrunner right now that you get to... yeah, like an Andy deck is super... Like, when you have someone teach you how to play an Andy deck and what you're supposed to be doing, it's like super fun. But like, here's your first game in Netrunner, here's 9 opening cards. Like, it's just so wild that you have to just make decisions from that point. So it's like, yeah, there's just a lot more decisions to make as the runner, and it's really hard. And right now, the way the Corp is set up is to be balanced at high levels. It's really punishing on bad mistakes, because at high levels, runners make fewer bad mistakes, and so Corps need to be able to compensate by exploiting those bad mistakes. So this is why, and then this was kind of my ultimate point, was like, this is why you need to bring runner power down, so that runners can make smaller mistakes. You try and take down the highest outliers of Corp power, and then take out the foundation of runner power heavily in exchange for cards like deep data mining, where you want to shift runner power from, I'm going to sit on 1,000,000 credits, be able to get in anywhere the Corp asks me to, and try and not make mistakes for 15 turns in a row, to, I have a finite supply of resources. I need to choose between trying to contest what the Corp's plan is doing and advancing my own plan. And I think Essa is a really cool deck for that. And I hope that we continue to see more runners that build in that direction, where they don't need to be quite as like Essa's just like, okay, card says sabotage, it goes in my... Card says core, card says sabotage, it goes in my deck. So, like, I'd hope that we get more nuance than that at some point. But I hope we do see more of that, and less Paladins, less Keikos. You know, I'd love to see, like this is a card I was thinking about apropos of nothing. Like, Turntable is a card I love, and it is a control runner card. Runners are still too rich even after Rizeku's been... Oh, totally agree. No, I mean, okay, I think at this point we can say Anarchs are probably too rich. The verdict is a little bit out on Crim, because it might be that while they're very rich, they have other deficiencies. I think Sable and Padma are that in a less powered world. Yeah, I think in a less powered world, Sable and Padma are also good IDs that do something kind of similar. Like, Sable, I suspect, is probably one of the second best teaching. Like, I think Gabe and Zaya are great teaching IDs, because they say, go to run a central. Well, Gabe says run HQ, Zaya says run a central and you'll get $1 out of it, right? That's super cool. You tell people you can use this every turn. You don't have to, but it's obviously you're going to want to. And then Sable says, oh, hey, do this every turn. I think because it's random, it's a little, you have to be better about evaluating when you should and shouldn't, right? And Padma needs more charge targets, right? Padma, clearly a lot of Padma's power budget went into endurance, and that just, like, because the card's banned, Padma's basically blank. Like, there's not payoffs for charging. The charge targets are, the charge payoff is really Wake Implant, as far as like Wake Implant and the Twinning, both of which are out of faction, because putting more counters on Hyperbaric and Propeller are just not like, that doesn't tell you how you're going to win the game. It just says I get to do some Shaper semi-efficient breaker stuff. Just install 3x Nyashia. Yeah. But, like, also, like, I just want weird cards again in the game. Like, Turntable's super interesting because it's weird. But, yeah, like, I mean, the other thing I want back is Parasite, right? But that's because I'm a sicko and insist that that Parasite, Count Siphon were fun Netrunner. Yeah. I think I'm actually going to start. I know it's only been 2.5 hours. I think I'm going to start wrapping up the stream, just because it has been a long day. One of the things I've been thinking about, like when I say this, it's going to be like probably a lot of people saying like, no, it's fine, we love your stuff, but like I sometimes think so. Let's do a little bit of a walk. I don't know if all of y'all have seen this. Let's see. Why it's rude to suck at. So, this video, why it's rude to suck at Warcraft by Folding Ideas. I give a
monster make you buy. Monster make more.
If you haven't seen this, this is a fantastic video. Basically about how players have kind of ruined WoW for themselves, and how even casual players got influenced by the way that hyper-competitive people saw and played the game. And so when WoW Classic came, like, the example of this is Wizards at one point said that we're going to jump back in time. You can play on an old server, and, you know, for people, some people are like, oh yeah, the game's gone in a bad direction. We need to reset back to the past where everything was good and great. And what ended up happening is that everyone basically ended up playing WoW Classic as if they were trying to speedrun and optimize it. Because there just wasn't there was a couple of things happening. One, people had gotten better at playing WoW, and the way people played WoW had changed enough that people felt like the way they were supposed to play and experience WoW was through this idea of optimization. And it became super endemic to the community. And when I think about the content I produce, I think it has some of the same problems, where I talk about good and bad as what I mean competitively strong and competitively weak. And it's a thing I'm going to try and start consciously changing how I frame. But it's something I also am going to suck at framing because, quite frankly, I've poisoned myself on Netrunner. I enjoy when people hand me a janky deck and I play it, but I enjoy more taking a competitive deck and bashing it against another competitive deck. Like, I've trained myself to enjoy that part of Netrunner more, and that's not the experience that most people need to get out of Netrunner but it's the way that my content suggests that you should be experiencing Netrunner. And so I don't know what to do about that, because I enjoy making the content I make. And like, I don't feel like it'd be weird for me to start. I feel like if I just say at the start of every video, when I talk about good and bad in this video, what I really mean is competitively strong, competitively weak, and that's the context I'm going into this with. I don't feel like that's a satisfying conclusion, because that's no change at all, except a caveat that feels like more like I'm covering my own ass than trying to think about and consciously decide if I'm doing stuff that's good for the community, good for me, good for the game, like all this stuff, right? And there was definitely times where I was trying to do stuff like the record reconstructors was not meant to always be the meta staple decks from the past, right? It was meant to let people include fun and funny decks. Unfortunately, the first two people I was trying to reach out to for those like more off-kilter decks sort of dropped out of Netrunner at the same time. Then I contacted a bunch of old heads and just life got in the way, so I didn't do that. Yeah, so like, it's something I should probably put some effort into. I think it's something I need to think about some more. Sophie, I appreciate that, and that's kind of like where I land on this. Is that if I, like, I've yet to, like, even though I'm, like, and apologies for those of you watching ads, but, like, I don't get paid. I have to make $100 before I get paid out, and I've yet to make $100 on either platform, right? So I'm not actually making money on this, really. And so yeah, making stuff that satisfies me, like, I think is ultimately the goal. Like, I don't have to be an ambassador for the community. At the same time, like, I think Ixaron, that's sort of like, yeah, my goal is not necessarily to serve the community first, but I think it is worth thinking about, and I will, you know, try and keep doing this thinking off stream. That, like, part of, like, I should also say, Andre, I think, kills it by being enthusiastic about decks at all levels and really, like, showing people the joy of building weird and janky stuff in Netrunner. Like, I think I tried to, for a little bit, do the Andre thing of, let's build a weird deck live on stream and play it. And sometimes I really enjoy doing that. Like, I will do that with Shaper all the time. And as soon as new Shaper cards come out, like, you best believe that's all I'm going to be doing for, like, 2 to 3 months after a card release. And then I'll put out a video saying that Shaper is unplayable, and then someone will go and win a CO with it, and then we'll never talk about Shaper again, right? But, like, my channel is rapidly becoming more popular than I'm like, I don't know, I am a very prominent voice in the Netrunner community, and I want to think about the impact that the type of content I do puts out, and think about, like, what's the right balance for all this stuff. Yeah, Cold Lava, like, this is the thing. When I think about what I personally want, right? I actually do want more people to play with at the competitive level. Like, I'm super glad that you got into playing competitive Netrunner because it's meant I've had another person to talk about Ob with. It's great. It was great to meet you in person and play at Mansion Runner and talk about stuff competitively. Like, I think that's a super, super cool part of Netrunner. The thing I'm worried about is that a casual, someone who's enjoying the game casually will watch my content and decide that their enjoyment of the game is not valid because it's not the same way I'm doing it, or they have to either like they can't be part of the community if they don't look at the game the way I do it, or they just have to get good even if something they don't actually enjoy. And that's the downside that I worry about. I think like if I can get some people who try out competitive play and then discover, oh, I actually really like this, and then they can, come on my content and be like, hey Jeff, you're wrong about this, or I started getting good, this is what I've learned. Like, that's super cool, and that really is what I'd hope would happen. But while I'm doing that, I want to make sure I'm not like telling players that are less experienced, like and part of like this stream, right, it was me going like, for mid and lower skill players, like, Corp kind of is OP. And like, that probably is a problem. It's not one that I can like it's a blind spot I have, and like it's a weird conversation to think about where I'm like, yeah, if you're playing a janky runner right now, it's gonna be rough. And it feels like a value judgment on you when I say, like, if I say, oh yeah, good player, the game is balanced for good players. That's like an incorrect, that's like a state, that's a, to some extent, not a value neutral statement. That is saying if you are finding Corp overpowered, you're not good enough at the game. Your experience is somehow not valid. And I've just been doing that for the entirety of the 2 hours. And yeah, it's really tricky. It's really tricky. So it's something I want to think about more. If you ever see a video that's why my content's bad for Netrunner, that'll be the title. And it'll just be me talking about that. But, I think in the meantime, if people find me describing good and bad in ways that they feel like they're not super comfortable with, this is my permission for you to go and shout it out, and say, hey Jeff, let's remember, like, do you really mean good or bad, or do you mean competitive and less competitive, like not competitive? Yeah, I don't know. And like, part of, I don't know, it's like, I also know, like, I'm not the worst about this. I don't think there's I'm not like so influential that like I'm gonna single-handedly sink or swim Netrunner. But it's also like a conversation I've been thinking about. Yeah, Salmir, that's also a good point. For people trying to grow their meta, like, it's also like avoid terms like good or bad, try terms like trash or busto. Oh man, I haven't checked on that site in quite a while. I wonder if anyone's still doing it. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things, like, I definitely still enjoy building janky decks. Okay, that's not quite true. I enjoy building janky Shaper decks and janky Asa decks. And so I will build those till the day I die. And yeah, one way of couching things, I actually like that a lot, Hank, is couching things in terms of tune for competitive and tune for fun or creativity is a nice way to do it. Like, and right, I put in 3 cards that are worse than replacement, but it's a solid deck. Though honestly, seeing Eric win with with Lat makes me want to try and win with a Kiko Nisei, because like if we just cut the Reaver and then cut the Harbingers and the Aesops, we play a Paperclip and a DJ, we probably have enough influence to make that work, right? So like, who knows? We could maybe make that work. So yeah, I don't know. It's something I'm going to think about. I also was thinking about making a video about my off run, but A, I've already forgotten all the details of the matchups, and B, I think it's a little bit weird to be like, oh yeah, this deck came second, it went 4-1, and I don't even think it's that good in the matchup that I was expecting it to be. Oh wait, it looks like I literally did this like 2 weeks ago. Oh no, okay, that's not quite. That's a little bit like I went too deep in the jank, right? But like, if we just wanted to build, blah blah blah. That's not. We're gonna go 2 Anacams, 3 Gambles, 3 Diesels, 3 Laundry, 3 Casts, 3 SMC, a Paperclip, a Unity, a Golo maybe. Actually, Eric was running a fun suite, which was an Oiler. I think generally it can go a long way to encourage people to find ways to play in person. It's much rougher to die to random HHN when you're playing just GGs and leads on JNet, and in person when you can talk beforehand about what you're both looking out for a game. I think it'd be easier to sign up idea of increasing Hiko's Nisei influence to some NSG person than to win with a Kiko now. I think my next project is a runner deck without Fermenter. Only have 3 to spread between all my runners. That's a good shout too. Speaking of, I'll do 2 Fermenters, a DJ. We probably want a Clot because we're playing Shaper. We're gonna go with an Echelon. We're gonna go with a Turbine. Let's do a Simul chip or 2. We'll do a Beth. I like a Beth. I think we want Nuka over Earthrise. It's funny. This was one of the things that people were insisting on in playtesting, is that you should always play Earthrise before you play Nuka, and then we get into the wild and everyone's like, no, you just play Nuka. Like, I don't know, I think that's pretty funny. I'm not even sure it's correct, but it's just really funny to me. Creative Commission. Probably 2 Deuces. I think that's slightly better than 2 Pinholes in this meta. I'm not 100% on that, though. Definitely go either way. Hey, Janktivist. So the 1-sentence recap is, I was looking to prove that runners are better at, like, right now the game is, let me start from the top. A player who placed on the bottom third of my event came to me and said, Jeff, I think corps are broken, and that's something that should get fixed. And I said, no, corps aren't broken. At high level tables, it's like balanced to slightly runner favored. And they said, 1, I don't believe you, and 2, even if that's true, I don't think that's a good thing. And so today's stream was trying to show that 1 is in fact true. And like, in that conversation, I didn't have data in front of me, and it's like, okay, now I do. In the cuts, once you get to any reasonable number of games, runners start outperforming their performance in Swiss dramatically. Now, top players in the Swiss still tend to match or be close to the Corp average win rate. And I think that's mostly because, like, if people are dying to Corpse a lot, like just fucking up and losing, which is kind of how the matchups feel like they work, like, you're still just going to win. You're going to get easier wins in Swiss with the Corp, and you're going to have to fight uphill for runners a little bit more. Misdirection's a very good clue that I literally always forget. Oh, I don't want Unity, though. I want Ngolo. Maybe I do want Into the Depths. Do I want a Conduit? I think that's what... Okay, so we could do one janky thing, which is Contaminate. So we could install Conduit and boom, go in big, right? It's 1 inf. We could find that inf. We've got 2 deuces in the deck that we could drop. We could also put with 17 events. We could probably put in 2 prepaids, right? Leave it a paperclip. Now that you mentioned, I don't think I fucked up and died at Panta last weekend. I guess that means I can take even more core damage. Yeah, it's a more expensive maker side. That's a good point, Hank. That's a good point. Okay, I've got 1 card left. Should it be Psych Mike? Yes or no? Or should I be playing like an HQ interface? Psych Mike? We're yes on the Psych Mike. Okay, cool. I mean, this deck is fine, right? Like, it's at worst fine. It's worse than playing something in Anarch because you have 0 actual disruption except Clot. But, like, genuinely, I'd expect this deck to go no worse than 2-2 at the Panda CO. I think Prepaid is probably about as good as Telework, but that's definitely the other slot it could be. Is it could be 2 Teleworks, right? Yeah, prepaid voice pad. Yeah, we do kind of have more than 17 events, right? And almost all of our events cost a credit, so like it's not the worst. Actually, here, what we'll just do is we'll keep hitting all. So we would find a prepaid voice pad early enough in this game to be worth installing. Where's our second? I don't love this art. Definitely fun. I mean, like, that's not terrible. Okay, but the point is that you only install 1 prepaid voice pad, I think, Sad Stug. We're not Anarch. We don't get 1 credit drip every turn cards. So we have to pay 2 credits to install them. And we basically treat prepaid voice pad as a unique, I think, in this deck most of the time. So you could say, oh, this should be 1 prepaid and 1 telework or something. Or just 2 teleworks. And I think that's fun. Yeah, I mean, like, the companions, I don't know why they're orange. They are clearly green cards. Like, they are the greenest of green cards. And someone at NSG painted them orange. So, who knows, right? Like, I would... Like, there's a part of me that's like, man, if I could... Like, let's say NSG, like, does rotation in 2 years, they rotate all the FFG cards, I would say rotate Ashes and then give us a year off of rotation. Jankvist, they're orange because they're good. That's what good cards get painted. Yeah, that's very true. Oh yeah, here. Let me I'll just go on why it's rude to suck at World of Warcraft. It is definitely worth the watch. It is, I think, Folding Ideas has made some great videos. His Line Goes Up video, I think, to me is like required watching to me. And I think this one is very different, but super relevant for the Netrunner community. Yeah, I love everything Fulton Ideas has put out for the last several years. I'm not like a super big media critic guy, but it's, you know, even those videos are great. Yeah, Line Goes Up does get referenced in the artificial crypto crash, I think. Can't stop believing. I actually don't know if this is a direct call out. Line Goes Up is, but it's also a fairly, I don't know, maybe it is, maybe it is. I'd have to ask. I'm sure someone in NSG could tell me, but and in terms of mechanical identities for the faction, Ixaron, I have super clear ones in my head, and I think Sabotage and Mark and Charge all hit them. I think Ashes completely whiffed on mechanical archetypes for the factions. Just like Simulchip is 100% a Shaper card. Line Goes Up is in that video. It's also the title of that video. I just don't know if it's Line Goes Up until we don't need it to is really a thing. But I think, yeah, it's like Boomerang feels, there's like individual cards that feel prim. I think the Anarch card pool in Ashes feels nothing like an Anarch card pool to me. Like if you look at what Ashes does, it's all this big rig nonsense. It's like it's just these weird cards. Like Moshing, I think, is Anarch. It was not played for a very long time, which is really funny, but to be fair, thematically, Hoshiko isn't Anarch, then why is she orange? Why is she orange if she's not an Anarch? Like, if you want to have a new install runner faction, make a new install runner faction, right? Yeah, it's just a bit weird. It's like, okay, yeah, Stargate's an Anarch card because it's a retread of an existing Anarch card. Moshing is an Anarch draw card. Like, definitely I'll give it that. I don't feel like the rest of the cards are either weak or don't feel like Anarch. So I think Ashes just isn't the strongest work. And that's, you know, that's fine. And people are gonna, like, I know there are some people that hate Borealis, like think it's the worst set, have quoted it's one of the worst like sets ever printed for Netrunner. So like it's obviously it's everyone has their personal taste, but like I'm like basically done with Ashes already, and we've probably got 5 to 6 years before it rotates. Oh well. It's not a casual player. It's a really competitive player. They just don't like what direction it went. Yeah, and it's like, okay, like Boomerang and Bravado feel very Crim. A lot of this other stuff, like Az is a Shaper IT, right? Az is asking you to play Big Rig again. Like, so it's like Ashes is 3 Big Rig runners, which is really odd. And like suggests like a little bit of not having strong ideas of what to do, and so what you do is you say, oh, we're going to make install cards, and that's fine. Like Ashes shows its age, and to be honest, I've probably, like, the playtesting stuff I've done, I look back and I go, maybe I just made the sets worse. I don't know. So it's not, design is not easy, and until I finish making my own little set, I really can't even and have people seriously play it and give me feedback, could I even start to make claims about things. And it's like, yeah, HB is pretty HB. Jinteki got no cards. They got Sting and Engram Flush. Bologna does feel very NBN because it's in literally every NBN deck, so we've just been brainwashed into thinking that's part of the NBN identity, despite being nothing like the NBN identity for many, many years. Like, NBN did not play 5-3s for such a long time. Or they played really bad 5-3s for a long time. Like, they were a GFI or bust faction for such a long time. Yeah, Bologna is not an NBN legit. Yeah, there's a graveyard of 5-3s for sure. Yeah, and it's like, thematically there's a couple of hits for NBN, but not, like, I actually think Daily Quest is a cool one. For the most part, though, I don't think the rest of this NBN stuff makes much sense. Yeah, Ganked also makes no sense. Ganked also has one of my criminal sins of a free-to-fire trap. NSG has printed a bunch of them. I think they are just bad. And then someone once said, oh no, Ganked has a cost, you have to trash Ganked. I'm like, no, that's not a cost. It's free. You install the card, it's free. Sometimes didn't even need, like... Does Ganked fire? Ganked does fire when not installed, right? Why does Ganked fire when uninstalled? Like, what the Ganked is a Jinteki card if I've ever seen one. But anyway, I said I was going to get off a little while ago. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I'm glad people actually watch these data munching streams. Maybe I will make a little video about my op deck because I think it's a fun deck, and I think like this is actually maybe to close back a whole bunch of different conversations. If people want to play a fun corp deck, I genuinely think the op is a fun deck. I think if you cut some agendas out of it, make it more 5-3s, it's maybe a little more consistent, though not as good at scoring out. And like it was a little bit of a meta call. Like I think probably the right direction is to choose one of the 4 win conditions and cut them, or I guess 3, right? There's the HHN, combo, and fast advance out. You pick 2 rather than 3 and build the deck for that. Like if you want to beat Reg Hosh, like probably you go all in on combo and fast advance because those shared things. If you're going for ESSA, I might actually go for HHN, where you go wide on assets and don't look to score out. Yeah, the real crime was NSG patching the access rules. So yeah, I might talk about it, might do a quick reflection on the CO while it's still fresher in my memory. And then I'll also give Eric's CO performance a shout out. But other than that, the other next video might just be instead me talking with this new player about just the game, the experience, why Corp isn't actually broken. You know, HHN and Oboe aren't free wins. They may be time walks, but often the runner can be a turn ahead of Corp in tempo. That's actually maybe the key thing. Like, okay, time walk, but if runner +1 turn, no problem. And so when people say it's like, it almost is too easy for runners to get a turn ahead of the Corp right now. And so those tempos don't quite work. And yeah, that's also a good point. Scoring agendas time walks the Corp. So that's like, what do you mean by, is there a plan for allowing CEOs to submit deck lists for data? Like on Aesop's tables as NSG, in Always Be Running, in Cobra. Like, I know there's a in development feature for Cobra to let people submit deck lists. I have, in theory, a little bit of the... I have the database table for it. But I haven't actually set up anything to ingest. Oh, I probably could. Really looking at win rates, ignoring matchups, kind of missing some important context. Yeah, that's a good point too, Sad Stug. Because it's like, yeah, like the ESSA matchup, like if everyone's losing as ESSA, well, a lot of it's because people brought the ESSA tech, right? How much do bottom table runner win rates? Yeah, I mean, for reference, the person who brought this complaint, I think was playing. I actually should ask them about the details of their ESSA deck. But yeah, that is also this weird thing where new players are like, I should be able to win with any runner I bring, because I don't want to have to just be able to bring good runners. But also Corp is overpowered. And it's like, well, you got matched up against people like, because Corps have a game plan, runners often don't. Yes, that's like I think this was super interesting where it's like this event was all Hoshiko and Essa with Asmari and Jinteki as the smart choices for beating one of those two. And then you look at the Seattle meta and it's just like a whole different world. Like it's wild. Where is this? Like this meta is, I mean, it's still very Anarch heavy, but like there was no sports medal, literally 0 sports medals at Pandemonium. I don't think there was even a single, there was 2 ASA decks because apparently I've poisoned people into playing ASA locally. Yeah, Cold Lava, that makes sense. Like, Asmari is such a tough matchup for ESA, so... Oh, I guess Toronto's not anywhere near the Vancouver-Seattle meta. I don't know why I said that, Sad Stuck, apologies. Solomir, I played against a Mad Asa, would have lost if I wasn't Shaper. I am really curious to see if Misdirection goes, if suddenly Mad is just going to be everywhere. Because... people will just be like, wait, the runner can't clear enough tags. They just can't do it. I'll just give them 6 tags, and then the end of the line them twice. It's unstoppable. Yeah, no one home would be the counterattack, right? Maybe NSG will foresee this and print some multi-tag clearing. Also, like, no free lunch will clear it. No free lunch will get you access to clear up to 7 tags. And now the Corp has to have 7 rezzed cards that they can throw away. As a runner, you also get an entire turn. Imp exists. Like, I feel like there's gotta be options, right? So I would be shocked if it actually takes over the meta, but it would be kind of funny if it did. So yeah. Okay, I said I was gonna get off like 20 minutes ago, so I'm actually gonna tune it out. Next week I will be back to playing Netrunner. Thank you all for tuning in. Thanks for letting me ramble at you and code at you, and honestly, for the most part, stick around through the whole thing. So it's always great. I sometimes don't feel like playing Netrunner, and it's nice to know that I can just do other Netrunner related activities and people will be here to chat with me about it. It's really rewarding. So thanks everyone, and have a good night.